It's a very timely book because it, in essence, rehabilitates Justice Thomas, who required no rehabilitation to any of us who've been following his career and his jurisprudence. But he's been so demonized by the left, it was a great idea to do, especially from somebody like you with your credentials and the respect that you have in the legal community. But it comes at a great time because he's really getting bashed right now, not only for his alleged, they allege that these were improper gifts he took from donors, not true, not improper, but because of what they've been saying about him in the wake of the decision yesterday on affirmative action, and now in the wake of these. I bring to you, forgive me for playing you a soundbite from Joy Reid. This is in the wake of the affirmative action decision yesterday, which had in part Justice Thomas warring with Justice Sotomayor in the dissent and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in the dissent about what this would mean for minority communities. You point out in the book, Justice Thomas consistently in his opinions, whether they're in the majority or the dissent, cites people like Frederick Douglass, Thomas Sowell, brilliant legal Black men who have sort of set the stage for his arguments. None of that matters to somebody like Joy Reid, who's representative of many on the far left. Here's what she had to say in SOT 3.
He, like Samuel Alito, appears to operate from a kind of rage, a sort of cold rage against the entire 20th century, the second half of the 20th century, which they find to be an affront to their own self-image and to their image of America as this country that is noble and that has always been noble and whose slave-holding founders were noble. He has been assisted by white patrons, really his whole life. He seems to deeply resent all of the assistance he got, and he wants to make sure that nobody like him ever gets that kind of help again, because it helps his self-image so that he can lie to himself and fool himself and maybe hate himself a little less for having gotten help all along his path to the Supreme Court. And it was only Black people's support in those polls that got wavering Democrats to vote for him. And he has repaid Black people with scorn ever since.
A lot there. What do you make of it?
Well, I would point to the first chapter of the book and say, the one thing I tell people is give the book to a critic and ask them to read it and then discuss it with them. The first chapter of the book talks about Suzette Kilo's struggle to keep her home from a partnership with Pfizer and the city of New London. And I'm going to fast forward. The opinion reaches the Supreme Court, and the one justice that takes the NAACP's invitation to return to the original meaning is Justice Thomas. And he's in dissent along with Justices Scalia, Chief Justice Rehnquist, and Justice O'Connor. And the reason he points out, among others, is that often eminent domain, the taking, when the government takes it for, it's supposed to be a public use, although, as he said, it was suspiciously agreeable to the Pfizer Corporation. When they do that, they most often harm poor minorities. And in fact, in a predecessor case, 97% of the people that were displaced were Black. And so he goes through, and chapter by chapter, you're going to see, as you just pointed out, he often cites Frederick Douglass. He often cites Thomas Sowell, as he did yesterday. And he has a little bit of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King in him combined. Yesterday, a little bit of Martin Luther King. Sometimes it's a little bit of Malcolm X. I think the difference that people are missing is Justice Thomas. One of the things the book proves, and it's for ordinary people, is it proves that Justice Thomas has a strong Black voice. It surprised even me. But what he has, and it comes from his upbringing, he was born dirt poor. His mom made $10 a week and couldn't afford to raise a young Clarence Thomas and his brother, so she gave him to their grandfather. And their grandfather ruled with an iron fist, but he also understood that education means emancipation, to quote Frederick Douglass, and something Justice Thomas later quoted in the voucher case, the second chapter in the book. And whenever Justice Thomas would complain to his grandfather, he'd say, "Old man Kant is dead. You know how I know? I helped bury him." And I think you saw that in yesterday's opinion. His view was you could either choose victimhood, and if you chose victimhood, you'd use it as an excuse, or you can show that you too deserve to get things done. And it's amazing because if you look at chapter 3, he predicts that Grutter will be used to resegregate America.
Grutter
And
was the
then
case that upheld the use of race as a factor in college admissions. Keep going.
Exactly. And he cites the stats yesterday. 43% of colleges now offer segregated housing. 46% offered segregated orientation programs, and 72% sponsored segregated graduation ceremonies. He points out that HBCUs, he's been championing HBCUs since he got on the bench, which is contrary to the narrative you'll hear out there. And he points out yesterday that HBCUs have produced 40% of all Black engineers, 80% of Black judges, 50% of Black doctors, and 50% of Black lawyers. Think about that. And Xavier, a historically Black college, has had more success than Harvard at moving low-income students into the middle class.
Wow, that's amazing. You point out, you mentioned the voucher case. It's another example of him fighting not just for the little guy, but of course for students of color who get stuck in minority communities where the schools are not good and they can't get into a charter school or they can't get a voucher because of the teachers union. And he's been fighting for those kids too, but he gets no credit for that from somebody like Joy Reid, who only wants to see racial preferences in the way that she understands that term enforced and promoted by Thomas. Now that summer's here, it's time to get outside and enjoy your backyard. But does your backyard need a makeover? Start with the perfect centerpiece, a Michael Phelps Swim Spa by Master Spas. A Michael Phelps Swim Spa can transform your backyard into an oasis. The swim spa is an alternative to a pool with the therapy of a hot tub. Michael Phelps Swim Spas have a water current so you can swim, do aquatic exercises, and have fun with the kids. And because it is heated, you can choose your perfect water temperature and use it all year long in any climate. Michael Phelps Swim Spas by Master Spas come in a variety of sizes to complement almost any yard, even if it's a small backyard. And this is not a long, intimidating project. In fact, delivery and installation can take less than a day once your space is ready. Michael Phelps Swim Spas are 100% made in the USA by Master Spas, the world's largest swim spa manufacturer. You are going to love your Michael Phelps Swim Spa by Master Spas. Go to masterspas.com, put in the promo code MK to save $1,000 on a Michael Phelps Swim Spa or $500 on a Master Spas hot tub. That's masterspas.com, promo code MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.